everyone, and welcome to another live expert interview. My name is Romeo Challenger, and I'm the CEO of Polo Tweed. And I am joined today by a wonderful, wonderful man who I know very, very well, Romeo Challenger. Hello, lovely to see you. How are you, Romeo?
Fine, how are you, Lucy? Okay.
I'm really well, thank you. Now, so to everyone who's tuned in, you might have, if you are, good at puzzles, put together that Romeo and I share the same surname. We are from the Challenger clan. Now, Romeo is my father-in-law. I am married to Romeo's son, Ben. But Romeo is coming to us today because he is, in his own right, perhaps I would say, the best drummer in the world. He is a professional musician, very famous. Many of you will know who he is. So I thought, Romeo, you could share with our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, your background, and what your amazing musical journey has been.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can actually start by saying that I was actually born in Antigua, 1950. We came to England 1957, and we settled in Hackney for a short time. Then moved to Islington, then joined my grandparents in Leicester, and I've been there ever since. I moved out from Leicester to sort of a little village in Leicestershire, but I've been there ever since. Started school, got into sort of the music side of that, even though it was not as good as it is today. We did music youth clubs and stuff like that, where luckily there was a drum kit floating about somewhere. So I mean, everybody ran for guitars, and what was left was a drum kit. So I picked that up and got on it. And it, actually, funny enough, I didn't have an idea of how to play a drum kit, because I initially thought it was quite easy, which was easy to play for me, but to really get to sort of a playing level where you could actually play to an audience, you really have to practice. So I bought my first drum kit at the age of 12. I did the paper round to get the drum kit, actually. I do remember the kit cost, I don't know, 30 or 40 pounds, which in them days were a hell of a lot of money. So I did the paper round anyway. I always believe in, my parents couldn't afford it anyway. My mum couldn't afford to pay the drum kit, paid for it. So I actually went and got the kit by paying, through a paper round. Joined a band with some guys in school, left school wanting to be a footballer, and got signed on with Leicester City as on a youth form. Stayed with them for a while, but obviously for me, I thought I was good, but they obviously didn't think I was good enough. So I, went to work and all the rest of it. I became an engineer's apprentice, actually, in a rivet making factory, which worked for aircraft, rivets for aircraft.
Okay.
So I was, being a tool setter with that. Even then I was still interested in playing the drum kit. Whatever job I was doing, I knew it was temporary because it's what I wanted to do. Anyway, I joined a few local bands, and this is where it was interesting for me, because I realized even then, even after so many years, 4 or 5 years, you really need to learn and get expert advice from that, which I did do. I found the best teacher in the area possible, a chap called Harry, who I still see from time to time. And he was a musician and a drummer at the local Pally. Palais was the Palais was a local dance hall which was all over the country. Actually, everybody of a certain age would know what a Palais de dance is. Anyway, I got lessons from him, which sort of, within 12 months, I became quite a good player actually. And he put me onto a band who became Black Widow. Black Widow was a professional band who I joined in 1969. Okay, I put, by that time, I thought, well, I think I need to play professionally. So I became a professional musician in 1969 and joined this band, Black Widow, who was what would you call a demonic, devil-worshipping group, which my mother, who is a staunch Christian, was horrified, But it's just, I thought, well, I need to get this chance. The thing is, when you get a chance, and you really need to grab it because you don't know what's going to sort of come in the future. Anyway, I joined this band, and they're quite a well-known band. I think their first album got to number 30 in the charts or something like that. So they were quite well-known. And, I was just chuffed that, they, on the recommendation of my teacher, they hired me to play for them. So, I was going around and playing all over the place. But within that 12-month period, a massive gig came up, which was the Isle of Wight Festival, 1970. It was massive for me because the likes of Jimi Hendrix and all that was all the heroes in the rock business were on that sort of festival, which was it was like a candy store, just fantastic.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 20.
20.
I'm just 20, but over 20, and it was just like, my gosh, a year previous, I was just looking, to see where my career could go, and it was great, fantastic. So Black Widow, we toured all over Europe, but well-known bands for the day: Deep Purple, Yes, Ginger Baker, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They're quite well-known bands. And the thing is, with those bands, I actually learned quite a lot just by looking and watching musicians, especially drummers, how they played, how they sat, and how they, warmed up and everything. So it was a massive learning experience for me anyway. Well, that went on for about 3 years until, the band just got fed up with not having the success that they thought they were going to have. So it split. The band split up, and that was 1973. Right. 1973. So I came back to Leicester because I was spending a lot of time in London with the band and all the rest of it. Came back to Leicester, thinking of what my next move is going to be. And I saw an advert in the local paper, a drummer wanted. So I thought, oh, well, okay, well, I'll see what this is and then go along with it. I mean, I went to this pub and did an audition. And actually, when it happened, it was quite interesting because it was a 4-piece band who actually got work by playing their own material, which was very, very unusual at that time because most pub bands played covers.
Yeah.
Oh, this band actually, in the end, I passed the audition, and they turned out to be one half of Showaddywaddy, a band called Choice. So they gave me the gig anyway. Then they said, well, we're playing in this pub, but every other week there's an amalgamation and two bands get together and play a rock and roll review. I thought, oh, yeah, well, this would be interesting. And so when it came up for this, for the two bands to get together, they started playing. I thought, oh my goodness, there's actually nothing around the music business at the time, because you've got to remember, at that time, 1973, you've got people like Genesis and all sorts of bands, or you call progressive musicians, who are just playing wonderful music, but really not in touch with the common people, because, you know, it was just elitist. A lot of the progressive musicians were, you know, great as they were. I think that held in people like, you know, glam rock bands, which we were one of, actually, in the end. So with Showaddywaddy, we got a name by just playing all over the place, because it was just fun. Nobody had seen anything like it before. As I said before, everybody was sort of listening to bands and sitting on the floor cross legs and having joss sticks and all the rest of it. All that, all really interesting, but really not what, it wasn't moving.
Yeah.
Most people. So, you know, we got gigs all over the place because it was solely different. I mean, the thing is, you've got to remember, we were an 8-piece band, and people were thinking, oh my gosh, you know, how are you going to make this pay? But at the time, at 23, all we were interested in just making the experience, just to play, go on stage and play. You know, I didn't really think about how much money you could make out of it. It was good because it meant we're actually in there for the right reasons.
Yeah,
we wanted to play. So we went into sort of a few competitions, which one notable competition gave us access to a TV appearance.
Okay.
TV appearance was called New Faces, which is like the X Factor of the day. I mean, we never wanted to go on that program at all, because oh no, we're not sort of that kind of act. Anyway, we were persuaded to go on, which was actually the making of the band.
Wow.
Because 1973, there would have been 3-4 channels at the best in TV. So anything that was half decent in television, everybody watched. Because, you know, you couldn't, you know, no internet, nothing. You know, 3 stations, I think. BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV. That was it.
Wow. So,
of course, you know, on a Saturday night, New Faces, everybody tuned in. You've got 20-odd million people watching. Something like 60 to 20 million, something like that. Anyway, massive, you know. So we went on this TV talent show. We didn't win it. We came second. But we were exposed to so many people, and once again we were picked up by the music business. All the record companies were after us to sign the band and all the rest of it. Yeah. We initially signed with Bell Records, and we had our first hit.
And what was that like, Romeo? I mean, you know, for most people, the thought of being, you know, a young man or woman at 23 years of age, and we're more used to it now with reality shows and X Factors. But I mean, that must have been a huge emotional journey to go on, from, you know, being relatively unknown, and then, as you say, the entire country knowing who you were overnight. I mean, what was it? What did that feel like? Did you enjoy having that kind of attention?
Well, it was weird because. Especially, well, the thing is, our first appearance at Top of the Pops was a weird situation, because we would, after our first appearance on Top of the Pops, you know, I was walking into town and all the rest of it, and people were, you know, people got to say, people were calling my name, and I've never met him before. It was a weird thing, and it was weird. And people, you'd go into a shop, and people would whisper and things like that. I mean, I wasn't really never aware too much of, you know, what was all about, because I just thought, oh, you know, I'm walking and doing, and no, people were just saying hello, blah blah blah. How are you? Are you Romeo? Blah blah blah. And I really didn't know who it was. So it was kind of a sort of life-changing experience, because, well, even now, you don't really ever get used to it, because you get people, you walk past somebody and they'll be staring at you, and you thought, who's he looking at? What are they looking at? And really, what it is, it's some sort of recognition.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, they're just looking at me in a strange way. But what it is, it's just recognition.
Yeah. But did that, you know, I mean, did that sort of make you feel uncomfortable, having that attention from suddenly not having all that attention to suddenly having all that attention? I mean, how did you just sort of took it in your stride and you just got on, like you said, with day to day?
Well, yeah, take it in your stride, and I just went on, because I mean, you know, for me initially it was just strange.
Yeah.
Having somebody calling out your name and all that, you never met, and you know, some of them wanted to talk to you and all the rest of it, and it was difficult. You know, because I'm not the sort of person who could sort of rebuff people straight away and says, no, I don't want to talk to you. I'm really that one who you can get into a corner and talk all night with me and all the rest of it, and I wouldn't really want to get rid of you, because I would find it embarrassing to do so.
Yeah.
You know?
And so
I suffer fools.
And so after, obviously, the Showaddywaddy rose to fame so quickly, you know, overnight, and then, like you said, you were on top of the pops and you started touring, and, you know, you went on to have, I mean, the band still tours now, don't they? I mean,
it's always tour all the time. Obviously, because of this virus thing, we've been sort of we were having a holiday until probably October.
Yeah.
But yeah, we still tour all the time.
Wow. And so you must have traveled the world, I mean, been in the most incredible places. And I mean, can you think of, were there any particular gigs or moments in your traveling that you really remember?
Well, I mean, obviously, the most memorable gig, as I said to you, was actually the Isle of Wight Festival.
Yeah.
But then, no, we've toured all over Europe. We did an album in Miami, which is kind of weird. I mean, the weird experience there in Miami is that we would stay at this hotel on the beach from there, and one morning, one of the guys was out swimming, all the rest of it, and a dead body floated up on there. And it's really, and we eventually realised, at the time, it was the Cuban refugee crisis.
Oh gosh!
So even then, you were still having refugees crossing illegally, and some of them losing their lives. You know, that was a weird experience. Even then, I mean, I'm talking about this was late 70s, something like that. You know, so yeah, it was a weird experience. But man, we've been everywhere. Actually, I mean, Brazil was a fantastic place. Really, really good.
And so, do you think
I mean, it's not
as your career progressed and you were touring, obviously drumming, for any musicians out there or people that don't know much about the drums, drumming is highly technical in how you approach it and all the different attributes it takes to do it. And we talked earlier about you know, learning from your teacher and then continually practicing, but your drumming must have evolved through this period and different techniques. But can you explain to people how difficult drumming is? I know you find it easy, but us mere mortals, what drumming, what does it mean to be a drummer? You know, what's sort of the art of it?
The thing is, it's you have to have independence. Now, you've got 4 limbs, right? And what it is you're doing 4 different things at the same time with the limbs. You really have to practice quite a lot to do progressive rhythms. I mean, I think initially you can play simple rhythms. I mean, as a teacher, I do get, I mean, after one lesson, you can really tell whether somebody's going to sort of be able to play the drums or not, because you get simple lessons, and I give them two-way coordination exercises at first, which are just hands. You know, you're quite easy to move your hands around and all that. But then the trick comes in where you put in the third limb, which is your right foot. Now, just by putting your right foot into the mix of the rhythms can create problems for a while unless you play properly. Man, that's just a basic rhythm.
Yeah.
Then you introduce your left foot, which is even more difficult to do. I mean, I can remember when I started playing, trying to play four-way coordination was just seemed impossible. But you just have, what it is, it's all about practice in the end. You really have to practice quite a lot to get the basics. Once you've got the basics and the foundation of it, you can build on that. Yeah. You know, but you really do need to do four-way coordination exercises to play drums really well.
Okay. And you mentioned teaching. So obviously the Showaddywaddy is still active, still touring, obviously not right at this moment because of the world pandemic, but why do you teach? What do you enjoy about the teaching?
Well, I actually enjoy teaching because what you say, going back to my old teacher again, and you know, he actually taught me quite a lot, and because he said, well, look, you actually, you seem to show a bit of promise as a drummer. You know, even though you see, I could play a little bit before I met him, and he said, look, what I'll do, I'll teach you for nothing, but if something happens in the future, if you do well in the future, please give something back. So, you know, I mean, I always remember that because, I mean, I still see him now. And, you know, I thought, well, okay, then you've got some success with Showaddywaddy. And it's something I wanted to do anyway, because for me, teaching was also, I was actually learning as well at the same time.
Yeah.
By teaching, you actually, there are bits of it where, you thought, oh, this is quite interesting for me as well. So it's a two-way thing. You're teaching, but you're actually also learning at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think that's what's so lovely about teaching and passing on your amazing knowledge to someone else is, you know, even if you don't play a musical instrument to a high standard. I mean, I play the cello, but you know, not very well. I did my grades and that was it. But I got to have an emotional journey and explore something and be creative with it. And you know, you've obviously reached incredible heights with your professional musician career, but yet you're able to teach others and give them just a glimpse into that amazing thing that they could do until, you know, they're 100, you know, they keep doing it. And that's so cool.
Yeah, well, because the weird thing is there are some people around who are actually incredible musicians who are not professional. There must be lots of people around who actually can play a lot better than those musicians who are riding around in private aircraft and selling millions of albums and platinum albums and all that. It's just the career path you take.
Yeah.
So, you know, people learn to play an instrument sometimes just for their, you know, just something they fancy doing. You know, sometimes, I mean, I do teach. I mean, I do teach in schools and all that, but I have taught on occasion a few times blokes who have always wanted to be drummers and all that and never had the time because they've had families and, you know, so they come in and wanting me to teach them drums and it's like, well, it's not really a middle-life crisis, but it's one way you can put it, where you can think, well, it's something they wanted to do. And, you know, there you go. I mean, some people buy motorbikes and stuff like that, Harley Davidson and things like that. It's just something like that. I mean, I'm talking about people in their 50s and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Who,
what do you think of the music? Why does it create such emotional resonance with people? Why does it make people feel good on the whole, you know, or sad? Why does it, you know, music can make such strong emotions and create these kind of, you know, feelings in us. Why do you think music is so powerful?
Well, I think it creates some sort of chemical within your brain, doesn't it? Basically, I mean, it creates a chemical in your brain which promotes a feel-good factor.
Yeah.
You know, which is also, you know, if you're suffering from something like depression or anxiety, you know, it's good therapy for that.
Yeah. I think there's been studies on it that actually show that it releases hormones into your brain that actually make you feel better. So it actually, like you say, it has a chemical impact on your body and
yes,
and makes you feel good potentially, which is amazing. So, you know, talking about your teaching and your training that you went through yourself as your own journey for drumming, you know, if someone's listening into this and thinking, I'd love to try drums, or, you know, where do I start? Where do I go? Could you maybe share some tips? What would be your sort of 3 top tips on, I don't know, drum technique or how to start learning the drums? What could you share with us?
Well, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, if you're going to learn a drum, the initial thing to do before you get into any expense is to sort of get yourself a pair of drumsticks, obviously, and a practice pad.
Okay.
A practice pad is made out of rubber, so you're not going to annoy your neighbours or your family. You know, you know, as long as you're in a room somewhere, you know, it is quiet practice. Now, you've got that. So now what you need now is just to start playing alternative strokes, right, left, right, left, right, left. That's what I do for people who want to sort of learn to play a drum kit. Don't buy a drum kit at first. Just start with one snare drum, a snare drum which is actually, you know, a practice pad. Practice that. Get your two-way coordination working, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and take it from there. Now, the thing is now, when you think that you were able to sort of work with the two-way coordination, it's imperative, you must get a teacher.
Yeah.
It's really important to get a teacher, because what happens is if you don't have a good teacher, you could actually get into bad habits, practicing habits, which will be really, really difficult to overcome later on. I mean, I see a lot of players who can play kind of well, but it's kind of sloppy because initially they never learned to play properly. You know, I think getting a teacher is the most important thing. A good teacher is the most important thing for you to progress on. I mean, not just on any instrument or in any walk of life. Getting taught properly is paramount.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, just to sort of slightly change tact, because I know we're talking about training and we will come back to that, but, you know, you've had this amazing life of touring and shooting to fame from a young age and seeing the world with the band Showaddywaddy. Can you think of any funny or unusual moments, you know, that you could potentially share with us? Is there anything that might stand out that you could tell us about?
Oh, actually, think of it. There's been a few actually. I mean, the ones that stick out, which you know, I do recount to people from time to time, was we were playing a concert in Cork, Southern Ireland, many years ago, late 70s this was. And I was playing away, and it was quite near the edge of the stage, the back of the stage. Anyway, we finished this number, and I was actually going to walk to the front of the stage to do an introduction of some sort. I actually slipped off the stage. Luckily, it wasn't very high, but I ended up in one of the flight cases round the back. And, you know, this is why the concert was going on. And I just disappeared I didn't hurt myself in anything like that.
That's good.
And the road crew came round, all had a good laugh and all the rest of it, and carried on with the concert. So that's good. That was a good sort of.
So did you just like clamber back on the stage? How did you get back on the stage?
No, they helped me back on.
They helped you.
All laughing and all the rest of it. But there was another situation actually where we were just about to go on stage, and I had to go in a lift to go up the stage because the dressing rooms were lower in the basement of this venue. As I go into the lift, it closed, and it went up a few floors, and it stopped. And I was stuck there while the introduction tape, Showaddywaddy, the Dam Busters, which we all always come onto, was playing.
Oh no!
And oh my goodness! And I was panicking, and the crew were thinking, "Where is it? Where is it?" Because I normally go on stage first. Oh my goodness! And they had to stop the tape. All the rest of it. They all come running to see where I was. They realised that I was stuck in the lift. I was paranoid. I'm still paranoid to this day about getting into lifts.
Yeah.
Anyway, they got it working, and they got it working eventually. I got out of the lift, and they restarted the introduction tape for us to go on stage. But it was funny now, but at the time I was really panicking. And as I say, now I get into this thinking, oh no, no, you just can't help it because I just keep thinking, there are some lifts now I look, and if it doesn't look that inviting to me, I don't bother. I use the stairs now.
Do you know that your son Ben, my husband, got stuck in an elevator when we were living in Battersea, and he got stuck 2 inches just before our floor. We were on the top floor, and the elevator came up, and it stopped. And literally, I mean, he managed to pull the doors open, and he could, like in the movies, like there was a gap. And so I was like, well, you can't climb out because what happens if the elevator starts moving?
Starts again, yeah.
Like you could die. So we called the emergency. They said, we'll be with you in 6 hours. And Ben said, no way, I'm climbing out. And I was just sit there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to watch my boyfriend at the time die. But he climbed out. But 6 hours being trapped in an elevator. I mean, oh my gosh. So,
that's not enough. That's a nightmare. Luckily for me, it was 10 minutes actually. Yeah. I was stuck in that, but that 10 minutes could have been or seemed like 6 hours.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had the same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can only presume that he's not sort of paranoid about going into lifts anymore.
No, he's okay. I think he's forgotten it, but he might remember it after he hears this. But just jumping back onto training, obviously and teaching, we're now in this bizarre world pandemic. A lot of the countries around the world are locked down, and so, as you know, my company, we recently launched e-learning and doing our training and teaching online. And for music, like you say, you have to have a good teacher, you have to have a good coach that can make sure that you are not picking up bad habits. So what do you think the power of the internet has for us that you didn't have back in the 70s now? I mean, it obviously connects us with so many people, but what's the power of e-learning to learn musical instruments, to stuff that we teach?
Yeah, I think, the thing is, what is you sort of, online teaching, it's like self-studied, isn't it? And it's, there's a flexibility to it. And it's convenient for you to do that, then you can access it any part of the world, really, wherever you are. So with that, at your fingertips, so to speak, it's quite easy to do. I mean, like I say, when in the 70s, there's no way you could do that. You really had to actually be face-to-face with somebody to get learning experience. But now, it's not like that. And the consequence of that, actually, with all the e-learning, actually, the standards, from my point of view, of musicians have gone way up the scales. I mean, musicians which is something I can actually talk about, are a lot better now than they used to be. The average guy is a lot better because they can access information instantly, and it's all there. So you can have, massive classes all in the same go, and people, sharing the same experience on a massive scale.
It's very exciting, and that's really interesting that you think that the standard has improved, because rightly so, people can now access the great musicians and see them practicing, or see them, their technique, and study that online. Whereas if you just saw someone perform a concert, particularly if the drummer's fallen off the back of the stage, you might not have a moment to actually think, oh, how did he actually do that? Because you can't study it, you can't capture it. So it's incredibly powerful, like you say. But yeah, no, Romeo, it's been so lovely to see you, as always, and talk to you. For everyone who's tuned in to watch this, of course, you can follow Romeo and the band Showaddywaddy. They are at showaddywaddy.net. When we share this podcast and video, we will, of course, put the address, rather than me spelling it out now. But if you Google Showaddywaddy, you will also find them. But Romeo, thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a pleasure to hear, in such a sort of insight into your background, your world, which I was obviously familiar with, but nice to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about.
My pleasure, Lucy. That's I quite enjoyed.
Thank you. Thank you.